Here I will be making gluten. I have all-purpose flour that contains 12 grams of protein. Here I added 2 cups of flour to make my first trial batch of gluten. Right? So here I'm just going to add some salt, right? At least a tablespoon of salt. Then I'm just gonna add water to combine my mixture together to form a dough, right? And this is to help with the following process, right? So I'm adding water and mixing my dough. So here I'm basically just kneading my dough, right? Just to make sure that it has a solid consistency and that when I'm doing the washing process, it doesn't separate, right? And this is just as important. I think every aspect of this is very important. So you just want to get your hand in there, just a clean hand, and you want to just knead your dough, right? Just knead, right? And this process shouldn't take you long. The whole gluten making process should take you at least 45 minutes, right? It's pretty simple. Just want to make sure you have your nice dough, and see how I make it into a circular. Oh, and the dates, I wanted to make sure that I had the correct dates and the flour is not expired. Right after I finish making my dough, I soak it in some water. I could leave it for an hour, but I didn't waste time to leave it to soak. Right, so I just added water to the dough, and then I'm just going to cover it for a few hours. Then I'm going to start the washing process. I think this is the most important part, right? You want to wash the dough. As you wash, you'll notice that the buns will start to form. So there are 2 types of protein in the flour, and you want the chemical reaction to basically take place where the buns are formed. But you have to be very careful. As you can see, you have to be very careful when you're washing to keep while the buns are being formed, to keep the flour, or to keep the dough together. Don't separate it and squish everything out, because once the buns are separated, you'll affect how much you get out of it. Alright, so you just have to wash as well as keep the dough together while the buns are being formed. It's a very delicate procedure, because the first time I did this, I separated the dough and everything just washed out and I lose all my flour. So you just want to make sure, keep the dough within the palm of your hand and just wash, add water and wash until the water becomes clear. So as you can see, the water is very white, so all the starch is being removed. So you basically just want to wash. As you see, I'm squishing everything together to keep the dough together, and you see the buns are forming. Beautiful washing, right? So I continue to wash, right? Continue to wash and just be very gentle. And as you have seen, I use 2 cups of flour. So this is just my startup, right? So once I get good at making this, I will continue to making more, right? So I have to throw that water, and this is what it looks like. A lot of buns are formed, and it still needs more washing, right? But very good so far, right? So you want to make sure that the water is changed from cloudy to a clear consistency, and you know that it is fully washed. Right? So you continue to change the water until you get a clear water. In and gliding, these are the protein in flour, and this is basically what you're extracting from the flour as you washed and you would have combined the flour into a dough, right? And that's the protein that we want to make our gluten. It's a very simple process, right? Just have continue washing, and you notice my water is clear now. So this is very good, right? And this is the amount that I got. And now I'm going to braid my gluten because now it's gluten, right? So I want to plait my gluten. I use 4 strands to make my plaits. You could use 3, but I'm using 4, right? Using a knife to cut between, and then I start braiding my gluten together. Right, so all you have to do is just one plait under another, tuck and pass it over. And once you reach the end of making that plait, you basically just tuck all of them under and you will have your braided gluten. Now I just did a simple seasoning. I put a little bit of salt on my gluten, and I put some cayenne pepper, and I place some, not cayenne pepper, I place some paprika, and I added my salt, right? And that's what I did to boil it. And it's a paprika I added, and I also had black pepper, right? And then I put it to boil, right? So toss in my seasoning, just a little bit of seasoning because I'm going to fry it, and then I'm going to add other seasoning to it. So this is just for the boiling process, right? So this is just for the boiling process. Alright, so here I added the gluten to boil, season and boil. Right, so after boiling, here I take the gluten out and I'm going to cut it into small pieces, right, just to make sure I have it how I like it. Still think there's more work to be done, but this is an okay attempt, right? So here I have my gluten. I'm frying it after boiling, right? After frying, then I'm just gonna add my natural seasoning, and then I'm gonna put it to bake. This is my protein red beans, gluten, and lentils burgers.